Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all. Best Will Ferrell role.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcasts should have a theme song. Podcasts should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Well, Hal, we're sitting up here on top of the shed until we get yelled at to come down from it.
You know, I watched that episode. You're
It's
referencing
so
a
good.
sketch from Will Ferrell's first ever SNL episode in the fall of 1995, where he and Nancy Walls were a couple. And he and Nancy Walls, that Mariel Hemingway, I think, was a guest. She was the host.
Wow.
And the whole thing was that there was a kid up on the shed, and he's grilling, and he just keeps going, "Hey, get off the shed. Can you get off the shed?" And then it devolves into him screaming. And I watched it thinking, this is not funny. This guy is not funny.
Really?
I don't care for him at all. But the great thing about Will Ferrell is he grows on you, and then you appreciate what he does and how great he is at a variety of things. And we're going to walk through the many roles he has played in his career, but we are not going to do it alone. We're going to be joined by the host of The Animal That Changed Me, Katya Lidsky.
What is up, Katya?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with Improv Greats. Podcast Greats.
Wow.
Greats.
We
Whoa.
are excited to have you on the show. First of all, before we jump into Will Ferrell, talk a little about The Animal That Changed Me, because this is such a beautiful, beautiful show.
Thank you so much. I mean, honestly, I really like to talk about animals. I'm very into them, and my husband just doesn't want to hear it anymore. And I was like, I need to find other people to converse with. And thus the show was born. No, I get to talk to extraordinary people about extraordinary animals who've changed their lives, wherever on the spectrum they fall as animal lovers, whether they're like vegan and really into it, or just like a normal person who just, adopted a cat and fell in love with that cat. To me, it's all legit. And I think that love is super cool. And I can't wait for you guys to come on and talk about it.
I'm very excited to come on the show. Your love of animals is well represented in the world, in everything that you do, in all of your writing.
Thank you.
It's so kind, and you have such a great big heart, and we're so happy to have you on the show. Will you please, again, before we start talking about Will Ferrell, we'll get to Will Ferrell.
Okay.
Will you please shout out your dogs?
So Ophelia was, my queen. She was my first rescue beagle. Love of my life. She's been gone about 6 weeks. She passed away about 6 weeks, almost 2 months ago.
So
I know.
Sorry. Yeah.
When I say those words, I sort of leave here like I'm here, but my brain goes to Hawaii or somewhere else. I don't know. That's what it feels like. She was 17. It was like time. And I was I was really holding on, but yes, there was and it was kind of like, I'm now at this point, I'm going to keep her around for me. I'm not doing that,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that was Ophelia, the number one, but because of her, everything sort of changed. Like how I eat, what I care about, what I write about, who I am, everything, just everything changed because of 25-pound beagle, basically. Yeah. Now I have Sassy, who's kind of an egg roll on legs is how I would explain her.
Is it visually or her personality?
It's kind of both. Fried on the outside, a lot of sprouts on the inside. Mushy. You want to dip her in something orange. She's so sweet, cute, loves my kids, thinks they're hers.
Oh, I love that.
I know. I sometimes have to be like, they're mine. She's like, they're not. But she's also a rescue beagle. And then I had Goldberg, who was our 62nd foster, who just went to his
62nd, as in you fostered 62 dogs, or you had him for 1 minute?
Such a good question. I don't even want to give the right answer because it's such a good question.
You have fostered 62 dogs.
Also, I love your new podcast, 1 Minute Dog. It's really exciting. It's a quick listen.
It's a quick listen. Yeah.
You guys, this is the information and feedback I needed. I needed your mentorship and I got it.
We got you. We got you.
Yeah. He was number 62.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of nuts. And I really liked Goldberg. He was a good boy, but he just went to a home here in Texas with someone who wants to take him fishing.
You're in Austin, Texas now.
I'm in Austin, Texas. Yeah.
I love Austin, Texas. Hal and I have done comedy in Austin, Texas.
Many times, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys are very popular around here. And it's fun. It's a fun place.
Oh, no, we can't go back.
We're not allowed, but
we're not allowed back.
We love Austin.
Yeah.
That's one way.
Does Austin love you?
You know what?
It is a one-way love.
Ask anymore.
We're like, hey, keep Austin weird. They're like, hey, keep Hallenmark out.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I
wish they hadn't made the t-shirts. That part hurt.
And they're selling them in every airport kiosk.
In every airport.
Really weird. In every airport.
Even just like they're trying to start a movement.
I was in Sheremetyevo and I saw that t-shirt.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
I'm going to show you. I do have one of those shirts. I have one. I bought one. I was going to wear it.
Katya.
Keep you guys out. I bought one. I had to buy one.
Yeah.
But it is a cool place to be. So I'm going to go to city council and I'm going to get you back. I'm going to get you back in here.
We appreciate that.
It takes one voice. That's all. One person.
I remember that Billy Gilman song. One voice was heard. All right. Let's talk about Will Ferrell.
Let's do it.
Will Ferrell, classic Saturday Night Live veteran turned movie star. I want to start with a question that I think we're going to need to answer if we're going to tackle what is the best Will Ferrell role. And that question is, are we going to include his roles on Saturday Night Live? Now, the question was asked by Max and Caden. Shout out to Max and Caden. Best Will Ferrell role. It didn't specify movie role, but I mean, there are hundreds of roles that he played on Saturday Night Live over the years. I think there are a couple that stand out that could stand up with his best movie roles. What do y'all think?
I have to agree. I mean, we have Janet Reno inside the Actors Studio. I mean,
Dance Party.
I kind of feel bad leaving those out.
Yeah.
And not to always make it about dogs, although it will always be about dogs for me. I'm just going to come front load with that information. But when he did Dale, whatever, dissing your dog, Dale Stuyvesant or whatever the last name. Do you guys remember this?
Sturdivant.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Hal, your attention to detail is next level. Dissing your dog is like the best thing. And that's how my daily life feels. So I can't tell you in all fairness that it's not a favorite.
Yes. With that mustache and the glasses, and it was like a passive aggressive method of dog training.
Yes.
And him getting like right in a dog's face. Like one of the great things about Will Ferrell is his ability to maintain his calm. He very rarely breaks.
Yeah.
And for him to get in, and it was a pre-recorded bit, so they could have done a million takes, but it feels like it probably wouldn't have taken him many to get right in the face of a puppy, like the cutest puppy, and lift up the puppy's ear to, I mean, it's just, he is a masterclass in a lot of different comedy things. And you look at that and go, nobody could do that as well as him.
No, for sure.
It is pure Will Ferrell.
It's something even in his eyeballs. I swear it's like I can see like some sparkle, some thought crossing his eyeballs, and it's amazing. You just want to know so bad. You can feel it, but you're not quite sure what it is. I think when he lifts the ear, he's telling the dog that, the palm is all booked up.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Because the dog won't eat.
The dog will not eat the normal dog food.
Yeah. We tried the palm, but we're all booked up.
So what makes a great Will Ferrell role? Like we're talking now about, you said he has that sort of twinkle, that non-breaking commitment to it. Because for me, one of the things I love about Will Ferrell is he came along on Saturday Night Live, and he's a groundling, he's from the Groundlings Theater. So he's used to playing these big characters, these big over the top, but truthful characters. And there was a moment in comedy while Will Ferrell was at his height where it seemed to me like comedy had become all about ironic detachment and just sort of mumbling snarky things. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? At least the most popular comedies were. And Will Ferrell was an iconoclast in that era because his characters, one thing I love about all of his characters is they care so much. They are not detached. They are attached. They are pure emotion, pure id. And that's one thing that I think really made him stand out in a particular time where that wasn't the biggest thing. And I think it's why he's still going. What do you guys think makes a great Will Ferrell role?
I kind of love what you're saying. And I think it's interesting because, I mean, to answer your question, what I love about any Will Ferrell role is honestly, anytime I can see him be even just like a dash of vulnerable, which happens more often than not.
Yeah.
My favorite Will Ferrell role is Stranger Than Fiction.
I loved Stranger Than Fiction, and it's subtle.
Oh my God. It's so
not big
subtle.
and wacky. He's a good actor.
But I haven't been able to articulate, he is a good actor, but I haven't been able to articulate what you just said, which is that his characters are like attached and they're present and they care. And even a character that is like apathetic or detached or has this, way of controlling and living in the world as Harold Crick, even that character is like, the minute he gets on screen, you feel his whole heart. It's wild. I don't know how he did that, but I haven't been able to articulate it. So thank you. That is what it is. I mean, he's so funny in that movie, but it's beautiful. He's beautiful in that movie.
He finds the humanity in each of his characters. If you look at like in a film or in a TV series, he has more room to explore and build a character out. And that's why my opinion is that as great as his work on SNL was, that there's nothing that he did on that show that can beat something that he's done in a long form film or TV series. But to go back to SNL for a second, if you look at something like Craig Buchanan, the male cheerleader, they would do, it's him and Sherry O'Terry who herself is like pure. She is like the comedy of energy and movement personified. And he would match her and they would have these big, giant silly cheers. And that would be the fun of it. But there is a vulnerability there of a hurt child or two hurt children that don't fit in anywhere else.
So true.
And it's revealed as comedic details, but there's something raw in there that you connect to and empathize with his characters. Even, what is his name? Marty
Culp.
Marty Culp.
He's great. Well, he's great in a duo in that way.
Yeah.
Like these super vulnerable school-based duos. He had two of them on SNL with the cheerleaders and with the Culps as the husband and wife team that would they were doing the assemblies.
Even with Chris Kattan, even Night at the Roxbury, that character with his name is totally leaving my mind. But even that character, his had something you want to protect to it.
It really is. Yeah. You just want to hold him in his vulnerability. Even in the video with the landlord, the 1-year-old at his door.
Yes.
And I think he's playing just Will Ferrell in that. Somehow you're on his side when the adversaries are an adult man and a toddler. And you're like, I wish that toddler wouldn't be so mean to that nice man.
How dare he?
Because he plays it straight. He knows the assignment and there's restraint in what he does as well. But it's also fun to watch him go off the rails, which is why I think Brennan Huff is such a great character from him in Step Brothers.
Step Brothers, yeah.
Is ridiculous. I mean, that movie is so over the top bananas. I laugh every time I watch it. He and John C. Reilly are like twins separated at birth in terms of like how they play off each other.
It's such a good movie. It really is. The first time I watched it, I think I was like, huh? Like I didn't feel it. And then afterwards I was like, oh, this is really good. Because there's so much on the surface that is genius. Old School was the same way. Anchorman was the same way. Where it's just like, oh yeah, this is all so funny and everybody is so clever and everybody is so good. But then if you watch them again, there's all these moments in between the moments with him where you're I felt that even in Shrink Next Door when he, I just saw him on Apple and I was like on Apple TV and I was like, oh, wow.
You care about him and you don't know why.
Fantastic in that.
In what? I haven't seen this.
In The Shrink Next Door, which is a real story about a psychologist who basically controls rich patients, including this guy, Marty Markowitz, who had recently lost his parents. It was always sort of a meek guy. And so Paul Rudd, who plays the real life psychologist who's treating him, that psychologist eventually starts like sliding into his life, getting him to cut everybody off, using all of his money for it, like basically takes over his Cape Cod house and has him buy the one next door and throws all the parties. And you see him, you watch that character disappear and you love him because there's a Will Ferrell. There's you want to care for him.
Mm-hmm.
You really do.
He's damaged even when he's playing characters that are like ridiculously over the top, like his like Wedding Crashers cameo.
Mom, meatloaf.
Exactly. Like, oh, this guy leads a really sad life. But in Shrink Next Door, you get to watch him disappear and then watch him reclaim his life, and it's
beautiful. He's powerful. Story. Yeah. Do you guys remember? I know this is a tangent, but do you remember that movie with Adam Sandler and Emily Watson? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a
Punch Drunk Love.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys are just on it all.
We're just nerds for all of this stuff.
I want to see a real like love story. I mean, Stranger Than Fiction was probably the closest that I can think of, but like, I feel like we haven't even seen everything that Will Ferrell can do. And I'm so excited to see him do something darker or a real love story, or not that wasn't a real love story. It's just so hard for it to be anything other than a delve into him because of how magnificent he is.
You know, it's funny you mentioned him doing darker stuff. Let's talk a little bit about his villains, because even his villains are lovable. He has played, most of his villains are voice jobs, it seems. Megamind and
who's actually a hero.
Professor Business. Exactly. Megamind turns out to be a hero. He's a villain, turns into a hero. What's his name? Professor Business or Dr. Business or something, whatever he is in the Lego movie, the villain in the Lego movie.
I didn't realize that. No, that makes sense.
Mugatu in Zoolander. Mugatu is the inventor of the piano key necktie. Even that has like a damaged person vulnerability to it that makes that character so delightfully terrible to watch.
It's like a
Lord
tantrum.
Business. Thank you, Ken Plume. Yeah. Yeah. When you watch a person like him that's exactly a great way to put it. His villains are all just human tantrums.
Yeah, but there's something I will say as a mom, like when I see my kids are 5 and 6 and
adorable ages for tantrums.
Such cute. And there's so many of them. Their feet are so cute. Kids, listen, your parents saw your feet too, and they felt this. I just want to say that. Anyone listening with feet, your parents loved your feet. That's real love. It's foot love. But anyways, my kids, when they have a tantrum, like when I see them crumble, like a collapse, half of me, literally an exact 50% of me wants to die laughing. Like, I just think it's so funny. But the other 50%, exact half of me is like, I will kill somebody who takes your parking spot in the future. Like, nobody can hurt you. Like, it is it breaks me. And that word, then, what you were talking about with Will Ferrell, that tantrum is like kind of what he does. He sort of, adults don't pull that off. They don't make you want to laugh and hug them when they're having a tantrum, but he does. He's like my kids.
Well, I think he can up the stakes of anything. And I imagine with a 5 and a 6-year-old, like part of the reason that it's funny that when a 5-year-old has a tantrum is because the stakes to them are so outsizedly high. You know what I mean? Like, if you stop to think, like any Will Ferrell characters, like if you stop to think about it for a second, the stakes of the thing that you are dealing with are not nearly as high as you are making them.
It's so true. I mean, tonight over dinner, my youngest was very upset that my oldest got the spoon with a penguin on it. And he collapsed. I mean, she was I was like, I wanted to, I'm like, if these are your problems.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the spoon with the penguin. And I could see Will Ferrell throwing a fit about not getting the spoon with the penguin on it.
I feel like if he's listening, he should write that into whatever next thing he's working on because it fits.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing in Step Brothers. That's what they're both doing is they're children.
Yeah. They're just big babies.
Adults never grew up and acted like they were 13, 12, 11, and sometimes younger years old. And it plays so well with these. I mean, it helps to have Richard Jenkins and Mary Steenburgen.
The two of the best straight men of all time.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She's brilliant. And we'll get to her. We'll talk a little bit more about her later because I think there's a Mount Rushmore movie that she shows up in that we're going to have to talk about.
Yeah.
That Will Ferrell stars in. I want to bring up though, before we leave the SNL era behind, I want to bring up one Saturday Night Live character, and I'm curious your thoughts about this because we talk about how much he humanizes everything he does, how much humanity he infuses into everything.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about his version of George W. Bush. Because his version of George W. Bush is, I would argue, significantly more lovable than his real life counterpart, in that he's got that Will Ferrell layer. Like there's something underlying his George W. Bush that there's a reason that became his solo show on Broadway. And I think he may have won a Tony for it. I know he's nominated for a Tony for it.
Oh, wow.
For playing Bush on Broadway. His version of him has it's a combination of the president that we all know and remember, but with Will Ferrell's layer on top of it. What are your thoughts? Without diving too much into politics on a show that doesn't deal with politics.
I love his Bush because of exactly what you just said. And I'm probably going to give away my political views. I am tasked with loving a lot of Republicans. I'm from Texas. Mm-hmm. And that version of Bush makes you softer towards, ideas and ideals that you might not agree with. Is it crazy to think that SNL could weigh in on the way people feel about politics? I don't know if it's that crazy.
No, I don't think it's crazy at all. No. It's been happening for years.
Yeah.
He brings he nails. There's something that George W. Bush always tried to either project or bring to the forefront in his persona. And that was a folksiness. And that has, as he's taken on the elder statesman, ex-president role, that comes much easier because there's no consequence to anything that he does now. His decisions, and that's true of any president.
It is so true.
Office. They get to become whatever version of a statesperson that they wanted to be. And Will Ferrell nails that folksiness, but also this idea of at the end of the day, I'm a frat kid who became president, and there's nothing Machiavellian going on. It's I shouldn't have this job, but we're going to have fun. This is going to be cool. So there is that kid thing of there's a button I can press under the desk that'll make a bomb go off. That's pretty cool. He nails that in a way that doesn't make you judge the politics of it or think about how frightening that could be to have a person who you fundamentally disagree with in control of a nuclear arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
But he nailed the notes. It's one of the most memorable presidential impressions because he created almost a brand new character out of him, but it had a lot of stuff that we recognized and has, I think, probably helped George W. Bush more than hurt him.
Yeah.
In his ex-president years.
That's a good point.
It's such a needle threading that he did with that character. It's as if he took only the details that people liked about Bush, specifically the who do you want to have a beer with? And he went, I'm just going to play the person that you want to have a beer with. Whether or not that is accurate to this man who has, all of the power in the world, I'm going to create a character that you want to have a beer with. And I think it's one of the greatest impressions in pop culture in my lifetime because of that, because of how deftly he handled such a polarizing figure.
And we talk about children and him playing children. There's literally a scene where he's trying to go to bed and Dick Cheney is his father.
I remember this.
And Daryl Hammond as Dick Cheney is coming in all right, George, time to go to bed. He picked up something that everybody who might have been watching George Bush, especially the flight suit in front of the Mission Accomplished banner, a lot of things where you're this
all the stuff that a kid would want to do.
Yeah. It's a kid came up with this.
There is this word in Spanish. I talk about it all the time because I'm obsessed with it. The word is lástima, which when you say ay, que lástima, it's the literal translation is oh, what a pity. But when you say, or me lastimé is I hurt myself, I scraped myself. But when you say tengo lástima, or you just say oh, I have lástima, you're saying I have the deepest layer, the mantle core, whatever that I wasn't good in science. That thing in the middle and the bottom, that's how badly I have empathy for this other living being. And now what they feel, I feel it's jumped off of them and onto me. And now I'm them and they're me. I know that that's so woo woo,
but I love that.
I love that word, right? Because there's no real English translation. There's so many Spanish words like that where you're there's not really a way to say this, but I can tell you kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like Will Ferrell is an amazing actor because he has lástima. Now, I don't know if he would call it lástima, but everything is brushed with just like deep empathy, deep overlap between you. It's like you're watching him be someone else, but it's you. And then you're the person you're with and me, and we're all here. It's so much lástima. Even
He's
Bush
tapped into humanity.
Totally.
In any of his characters.
If he can do that for Bush, like he can do it for anyone.
Right. Yeah. Even Mugatu. Let's take a quick break and we will come right back and we'll talk about some of the big juggernaut characters that Will Ferrell has played that are just indelibly ingrained in our brains. But in the meantime, please hear about some of the other fantastic shows on the Maximum Fun Network. We'll be right back.
I'm a psychic. My name is Psychic Carrie.
I'm Ross.
Oh, what a pleasure to meet you. Of course, I knew your name was Ross, as I am a psychic. But please, take a seat.
Well, I was hoping we could talk about my podcast.
Yes, I know.
It's called Oh No, Ross and Carrie.
Yes.
We investigate fringe science, spirituality, and claims of the paranormal. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yes. This whole podcast, it sounds like it's been a real challenge for you lately.
Actually, it's a lot of fun.
Yes, exactly. Because it's so fun.
I don't know how you do it.
This will be $75.
Okay, that seems fair.
Oh no, Ross and Carrie.
At MaximumFun.org. You knew it was a .org.
I have a gift.
Schmanners. Noun. Definition. Rules of etiquette designed not to judge others, but rather to guide ourselves through everyday social situations.
Hello, Internet. I'm your husband host, Travis McElroy.
And I'm your wife host, Teresa McElroy.
Every week on Schmanners, we take a look at a topic that has to do with society or manners. We talk about the history of it. We take a look at how it applies to everyday life. And we take some of your questions. And sometimes we do a biography about a really cool person that had an impact on how we view etiquette. So join us every Friday and listen to Schmanners on MaximumFun.org or wherever podcasts are found.
Manners, Schmanners. Get it?
And we're back. I think at this point, we're agreeing to leave SNL in the rear view to look at some of the meteor roles he's had. Is that right?
Yeah.
I would, because of the impact that it had, I would like to still leave Bush on the table. But I would say, generally speaking, the SNL characters, they don't rise to some of his, and they all rise, but they don't rise to the heights that some of these other ones are.
Maybe we should just go sort of round robin and throw out some roles.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to start our guests first? Katya?
I mean, sure. I'm trying to think of ones we haven't. Oh, Elf. That's where I was going to go. I'm going to go with Buddy. Yes.
Buddy the Elf.
Buddy the Elf. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I think that will be my next favorite.
Oh,
love.
For me, I think Buddy Elf is the one to beat.
Boy.
He's the absolute top of my list.
It is.
I'm with you on this.
Character. That movie would not work. I think it was originally when it was being written years before. I think it was being written for Chris Farley. I want to say that it was a Chris Farley. It was supposed to be a Chris Farley movie at some point. It was either Chris Farley or it was someone else, and it eventually became Will Ferrell. And I can't imagine anyone else playing it because he's so. There's no sense of him letting us in. He doesn't ever let us in on the joke. That's what I love about Will Ferrell.
Mm-hmm.
There's never a wink. There's never you're on this ride with me. You're watching this happen, whether it's someone uncomfortably yelling at their child on a shed or this human raised as an elf who has no negative bones in his body.
No.
And he doesn't comment on himself.
Never. I think anything he does is weird.
Yeah, I have a real big bone to pick with the commenting. I get so annoyed when I see someone like comment on their acting in the moment. And SNL, there's some SNLers that do that. And I'm like, just like, I love a good, like, break character and crack up. You can't help yourself like that. I will always go with, but the sort of, commenting as I'm joking and will never, I've never seen him do
That's the ironic detachment and its opposite, I think it's that he's always 100% in. And another reason I think this movie is the perfect Will Ferrell role is everything that we've talked about that we like about him. His lástima, his childlike wonder, all of those different elements you could combine and say that's the holiday spirit. You know what I mean? All of those elements put together are the holiday spirit, and he is kind of the embodiment of that as a person. So for him to get to play a role where the character, that's his entire job as a character, is just to be Will Ferrell. You know what I mean? Buddy the Elf's job is to be Will Ferrell and spread that love.
Do you feel like Christmas is like that, Mark?
I'm a Christmas super nerd. I'm super nerd for it. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm all about it.
I married a Presbyterian though, so I get in on the fun.
I'm so jealous, you guys. How fun. You get to be buddies and cry and have tantrums and get excited and do all the things.
Hal has a tantrum before every episode.
Every single one. I lose it. I lose it
over the smallest details.
Because it wasn't right. It was supposed to be 71 degrees, not 72.
Yeah, no. Do you do both holidays, Hal?
Yes.
And then try to have a fit at both times, or do you save it all the energy?
Well, I do
Christmas?
I celebrate how the fit lasted for 8 nights in the Great Temple for Hanukkah. And then I do 12 days of tantrums on Christmas and then beyond. So I cover it all. That's 20 days of tantrums.
You must be so tired by the end of a year.
Oh, you know that headache after you've just been crying?
Yes, I know it very well.
That's December for me. That's the whole month. That's just how I live. I also, similar to Mark, I love Christmas. I always have as a kid. I was always fascinated by it. I love the music. And I think this movie, it's weird to think this movie is, now it's 18 years old, but it's still very recent.
Crazy.
And it is required viewing at Christmas time. And that is in a very large part due to Will Ferrell.
Yeah, there are balloon blow up stuff. Like I see Will Ferrell's all over on lawns. People, I'm like, you're now, it's like Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph, and Will Ferrell as Buddy the Elf.
Yeah.
On all the houses I drive by. It's in there with like A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
It's definitely up there. I was watching, and I don't even think it was around Christmas time. Maybe it was, and this was just on her mind. One of the women on the hosts of the Today Show, I was like, oh, now you're the greatest. They were talking about, they said AFI has just, I think it was Al Roker, was like, AFI has just come out with their list of the top 10 American movies of all time. Anybody have any idea what those movies are? He says, anybody have any idea what number one is? And she just blurted out, well, of course, Elf. Like the idea that it's one of the greatest American films ever made. And I was like, this is why I want to be her best friend now.
Wow. She wasn't even hesitant. I'm an indecisive.
Did not break. Yeah.
I really love people like that. I'm always like assessing what do people need. I'm feeling what they might be wanting that I can deliver, but just to be able to be like, no, it's Elf.
Yeah.
And I'm
blurted out. One of the greatest movies ever made, Elf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of admiration for this.
Right?
Yeah. Did you hear that Will Ferrell just recently took to the Warriors court to give them?
What did he do?
Yes. This happened like 2 days ago. Yes.
Did he really?
Mm-hmm.
Did he wear his headband?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Like this is what we're talking about.
In his tropics gear.
And took it seriously. Like reporters were like, what do you feel about it? And he's like, well, let's see what the team says, comes back with me, what they want and what their offer is. Didn't comment.
Yeah.
Didn't break.
All right. Hal, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I want to throw one out, and that would be a good one. Jackie Moon would be a good one, but I want to go with a movie that I feel like is overlooked in Will Ferrell's canon, despite being not only a incredibly funny movie, but also a decent detective story, which is The Other Guys, and his role is Detective Alan Gamble, who is
the Gator,
who is the forensic accountant, like nerdiest, he's the nerdiest, but then you find out he was a pimp in college and he became a pimp. And then his wife, who's played by Eva Mendes, he's incredibly condescending to her and like, you look very plain. Like he's doing that bit, and then and the joke of it being that Mark Wahlberg is over at his house. He's like, is this real? Are you real? By the way, what a great pairing.
What a weird, delightful pairing.
They're so good together. But again, you get the humanity of that character. You see him break out of just being the straight-laced guy, and you see the gator come out, but also that he loves his wife very much, that he is very insecure with her, which is why he treats her the way that he does. And the movie as a whole is really good, and I love his work in it because it's so ridiculous, and he manages to ground it while also making it completely insane.
Yeah.
I love what you said that, his insecurity is like why because it is true. That's hard to pull off, like to be a jerk to, your partner on screen and you don't hate him.
Yeah.
No, it's so funny. It's just so, cause you're sitting there going like, what? I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
How is this real?
Well, it's because of him. He feels it about him, not her. It is. Yes. Yeah.
It really pulls you in, and it is not flashy to the level that Buddy is. It's not as noticeable, but I think it is an outstanding character and a really, really good movie. Especially special shout out to Michael Keaton as the captain, who also works at Bed Bath & Beyond and sneaks in TLC lyrics all the time, but denies it. I have no idea what, like him telling them to go on it. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Your imitations are so good.
That's TLC. I don't know what you're talking about.
I forgot about that movie. Yeah. You know the original title of that movie, by the way, but they weren't allowed to use it?
No.
The B Team. Isn't that great?
Are
that
you
movie
serious?
was originally called, because it was the A Team. They get killed at the beginning, so it's the B Team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they be allowed to use it?
I think it was like because of the TV show, The A Team. And it was too.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, the film, The A Team had just come out. Yeah.
It was recent, somehow contemporary from it, but
yeah.
Rob Riggle and was it Damon Wayans Jr.? Desk Pop. Never done a Desk Pop?
Your memory is really good.
Oh, and right. Also, I'm sorry, one more shout out for that, which is them at the Irish bar, and there are all these old Irish men singing this really sad dirge, and Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg are talking, and then in the middle of it, Will Ferrell's like, "Excuse me," and then he turns and sings a verse with them. It's just like the most violent, depressing verse, like there were no children left. Oh, and then he just turns back around and goes into it. And again, there's no it's all played this is life. This is what I do. I don't think this is weird at all.
Yeah.
So it makes it even more delightful for the audience to watch. So that's my Detective Alan Gamble is one of my
pretty great.
I need to see that again.
Mm-hmm. Mark, what do you got?
I'm going to start by talking about a genre of Will Ferrell character that I particularly enjoy. And then I will give, I think, the best example of that. And that is a person who is in their world, which is always sort of a not global, not a worldwide phenomenon, but a sort of niche job or a niche bit of celebrity. Mm-hmm. I'll put it that way. He does a great job of niche celebrities who fall and have to get back up. He did it brilliantly in Eurovision. I don't know if anybody saw that movie. I love that movie. It is bonkers. He did it brilliantly as Chaz Michael Michaels in Blades of Glory.
Oh my God.
He did it brilliantly in, there's one that I'm not going to bring up because somebody else might also bring that one up. But I think the best version of, there was also the one about the magicians. Was that him?
See that?
No, was that him? No, that was Steve Carell.
That's Steve Carell. That's the fabulous.
Oh, the more recent.
That's Wonderstone. Yeah, no.
That's him and Steve Buscemi is his.
That's right.
Steve Carell.
It's the same vibe of movie.
Oh my God,
so good. But I think that the best version of the small time celebrity who falls and has to get back up has got to be Ron Burgundy, Anchorman. Mm-hmm. I think that is. Talk about the stakes being so much higher for one person than they are for everyone else. And for that one person that he is to be a dramatic Anchorman, an overly dramatic, insanely misogynistic, just brutal bore of a man, blowhard, mansplainer, every adjective that you can use to describe a person that you don't like, mixed in with Will Ferrell's sweetness. I think that was a perfect alchemy that created that character. And again, it's like Buddy the Elf. I don't think anyone else could have played that character. And I think he's a perfect opposite to Buddy the Elf, where Buddy the Elf is pure kindness and empathy that by the end of the movie, he turns everybody else to be a little more like Buddy the Elf. Yeah. And Ron Burgundy is pure ego, who by the end of the movie, he has everybody else in society has made him a little bit more like a human.
He has that thing that like Bill Murray has, that even when they're playing like their worst versions, you're really rooting for them. You never abandon them, like Groundhog Day. You're like, you never feel that. Scrooged. It's the same thing with Will Ferrell. I feel like you're along for the ride, having a good time, totally have faith that as Ron Burgundy, he's going to end up being a better person. You want him to be one so badly, but it's kind of like what you were saying with his wife, Eva Mendes, in that other movie. Mm-hmm. Like that his snarkiness comes from something within him and not about the other person. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like, it never feels threatening when he's misogynistic or cutting. Like, it never feels, I watched Big Little Lies on HBO where like Alexander Skarsgård plays like an abusive husband, and I was like under the couch with my dogs. I'm like, this is I'm terrified. Like I was like, but I feel like if Will Ferrell would have done it,
which would have been weird,
which would have been a very interesting casting choice, but we would have been like, it's okay. He's going to be the humanity of him. And domestic violence is never funny. No. But I'm just saying. By the way, Talladega Nights, blah, 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 blah.
Ricky Bobby.
Thank you. I never remember the names, you guys. Never remember. But he was another one in your genre.
That was one I was going to mention, but I didn't want to take that one if someone else was going to use Talladega Nights.
And then I threw it out.
But I think that's great. That is another great version of, I am a mega celebrity in a niche microcosm. Yeah. And then I have a fall and have to get back up.
Yeah.
And more great John C. Reilly work.
I mean, Ron Burgundy is just stupid.
Yeah.
He's stupid in the way most people were in the 70s. Most men were specifically in that they bought into this like male chauvinist society. This is the way it's run, and men do this, and a woman can't read the news. Women are for making babies or making love. So his playing it through that lens of nothing he does is mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He doesn't know any better and doesn't know that he needs to be better. But you do get, his relationship with his dog Baxter, it shows you he has the ability to care for someone more than he cares about himself. The whole scene with, it's just so out of nowhere when Jack Black appears as the biker and throws Baxter off the bridge. And it's because he eats the burrito. It's like, this burrito is filling, and he just throws it out the window, and it hits, and then Jack Black wipes out because of it. He's a biker. And then, that whole scene is ridiculous, but just that is really the final straw for him that sends him over the edge. That's the glass case of emotion scene because of that, is him trying to, having a tantrum, having him in no control of his emotions. And that is the movie. He'd already had some hits before 2004. He had Old School. He had Elf. Mm-hmm. So he was already popular. But I think that this film, which is him getting to make something that he wanted to make with Adam McKay, is what made him a huge star on his own. Like, he carries that movie brilliantly.
Well, he also, a thing we haven't really talked about much is we've talked a lot about his heart and the characters and the empathy that he brings to these characters. But I think the thing that this movie benefits from and why it made him that megastar is it's also just plain funny.
It's crazy funny.
It's funny, and it holds up funny because that movie about a person who is on the wrong side of everything has managed to become a movie that is on the right side of everything because it's pointing out a person who's on the wrong side of everything and is hilarious at it.
Yeah. Christina Applegate is also a perfect foil.
She's Margaret Dumont to his Groucho. She is perfect.
She just gives him exactly what to bounce off. It's amazing.
Those moments where they're talking, they're talking while sitting at the desk as the credits are rolling. I mean,
her blowing him offness.
Mm-hmm.
She's perfect in that movie. Yeah.
She's brilliant. Yeah. I love her. But speaking of his dog Baxter, and I'm sorry, it just my mind. I have OCD. I've put it to good use with animals, but I can't make it go away.
That's fair.
Thank you for thank you for that. I read that he is going to be the voice of an abandoned dog in a movie that's coming out in 2023 called Strays, about an abandoned dog who wants to get back at his owner, wants revenge, and so he like comes together with a bunch of strays to like get back at the person who abandoned him. And I'm already like in tears. Like I'm a person who likes to be at the animal shelter for fun. I'm going to be there tomorrow, you guys. But to imagine Will Ferrell of all people.
Yeah. Who is a human puppy.
Who's a human. It's like, it's the most genius voice casting I've heard in a long time. I can't wait for it. It's going to be my new favorite.
Well, speaking of favorites, it's your turn again in the round robin. Do you have another one that you think might wind up on the dais with these, or have all the ones that are going to jump on the dais already been taken? Is there any honorable mention that you want to throw out there?
I feel like they're taken, you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like we've said them. The ones that I love that I've seen many, many, many times, I feel like we've gone through. Yeah. I'm going to stick with that. I mean, I could make up something, but I'm not going to do that to you.
I mean, look, he's had a million amazing roles.
Yeah.
Smaller ones and larger ones. If you haven't seen The Campaign, he's brilliant as Cam Brady in The Campaign.
Yes.
Just it's basically Anchorman in politics.
Yes.
But more, a little
with
subtler.
Zach Galifianakis as the unlikely challenger to his, to his normally uncontested, he's a congressman.
I think he's a congressman, an unusually uncontested congressman who now there's a guy running against him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's hilarious.
I see that.
For me, I think that if we can all agree on what the big contenders are right now, with shout outs to, I'll say his George W. Bush on SNL, Harold Crick in Stranger Than Fiction, some legendary roles. But I think that the ones that we have latched onto are Ron Burgundy and Buddy the Elf.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
I do love Jackie Moon. I wouldn't put him on the podium.
Yeah.
I might put Brennan Huff on there just because I think of those three performances, if you were to put all three of them, I would say that Brennan Huff is the funniest of the three, which is hard. That movie is so funny from beginning to end. And it's just like, it just doesn't relent down to like, I'm burning you alive. Like it's the entire job interview like every bit of it. It is like I think it's top to bottom his funniest role.
Wow.
I think I have to see this again then.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a lot of homework, like post homework. I thought I was going to have pre-homework, but I'm going to have post homework, which I didn't
Post homework, the world's worst cereal. New post homework. Hey kids, do you want wacky characters with your cereals? Leave that to General Mills and Kellogg's. Try new post homework.
We expect you to write 1,000 words on the back of the box and send it in with a self-addressed stamped envelope.
That's right. No maze, no crossword puzzle. Just college-ruled paper on the back of this box.
I just want to watch you two do this. And I want to listen to you two do this all the time. I can't. I do.
We kind of do. This is just our lives.
The
ridiculous.
Cut out the proof of purchase, have your parents sign it, and then return it to us.
And if it's not their signature, we'll know. We have their actual signature on file.
We have a handwriting expert at Post.
All right. What are we thinking? Where are we with this? We have three contenders right now.
If it's between Buddy,
and
Ron Burgundy,
it's really
I'm not taking Step Brothers out, but I feel like
I don't think Brennan Huff is I think it is the funniest. I think it's funny. I think it's that and Alan Gamble might be the two funniest for me.
Yeah. That's also the movie. That's also situational because those are a little less Groundlings, a little more Second City in that it's an ensemble piece.
Sure. I think those two make sense as a final two. I do love his role as Marty Moskowitz. I think that is so good.
That's The Shrink Next Door with Paul Rudd.
I don't think a lot of people have seen it, which is no excuse for it wouldn't keep it from being his best role. But I think part of it has to be, to me, like that they're a cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
Which both of those other roles are. Ron Burgundy is still quoted. That character continues to come back. They give him time on ESPN to anchor, to anchor like an hour by himself.
It's on every other shirt I see here in Austin. Everyone here is wearing that shirt.
Oh, really?
Still. Yes. Guys, there are other shirts.
Right? Nobody's wearing a Janet Reno Dance Party shirt in Austin?
No cowbell. There's no cowbell shirt in Austin.
Cowbell!
No Robert Goulet.
Cowbell.
Bigfoot.
Forgot about that too.
All right. Well, we have to make a decision.
By the way, that is one of the single best episodes of SNL in history. It's the second time The Rock hosted Wayne Johnson.
And
I
did
love
Bigfoot
him.
and Robert Goulet. It also has the best version of
Mango.
No, not Mango. Mango was his first.
Was his first one.
First time. The second one they did it was the perfect Brian Fellows sketch. Brian Fellows' Safari Planet, where he thought a bird was stealing his identity. And he's imagining, he's sitting there, the person, I think it's like The Rock is talking, he's like, yeah, this turtle does this. And then you go to Brian Fellows and you see the thought bubble, and it's a bird going like, yeah, I'd like an order a gold cage. My name is Brian Fellows. He's like, shut up, bird.
More cowbell.
Anyway, of these two, I think the answer's clear out of these two. I have the one that I would pick. Do either of you feel strongly about one over the other? Buddy versus Ron Burgundy.
It's, you know what? It's 50-50 for me. I think both are cultural touchstones. I personally have more of an affinity for Buddy the Elf because I watch that movie every year. But it also is kindness is the point. Whereas in the case of Ron Burgundy, the kindness is buried under a mountain of comedy and you have to dig the kindness out.
Yeah.
Being the point.
Yeah.
So weirdly, I don't know. I can go either way. I will leave this to Katya as our guest.
Oh God. The indecisive middle child. I mean, guys, I'm going to go.
Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
You or me?
I know it's a mirror.
Exactly.
I'm gonna change my mind. I started with Buddy, but I've switched to Ron Burgundy. I have now switched to Ron Burgundy. Here's why.
Wow.
I know. I didn't see it coming even and within myself. I am also here sitting in a state of shock. I think it's because Ron Burgundy is kind of like, okay, like if you can admit all the ways that you were like a jerk and did something wrong when you're telling someone something important or some sort of lesson, I feel like they'll listen to you because they're like, oh, you were a jerk too. Okay, cool. You've been there. And I feel like Ron Burgundy is like for a large part of that role, like he's walking around being the jerk. And so everyone can relate to him and you watch with your guard totally down as you laugh. And so then when the growth happens, like you're super in it with him. I just feels like no judgment. I don't know how to, it feels like come in and do it with me because he's as bad as you would ever be.
Yeah. Wow. I love that.
I kind of think he's the only person who can get away with it. Maybe Steve Carell could do something like that, but because of The Office, it would come across like even dumber, I think maybe. And I think with Will Ferrell, it comes across as, someone who's like like you guys were saying, like we've been talking about humanity. There's like an innocence, there's a vulnerability. And so it feels like no matter how gross you've been, you can be better. So I'm going to say there's more hope in that one. I'm going to go there. I'm going to put my money there.
Wow.
All $7.
Wow. People of the world, I'm shocked. I thought it was going to go the other way, but I think Katya laid it out perfectly. So I can only add 5 words.
5.
Go yourself, San Diego. Asked and answered. Katya Lidsky, thank you for joining us.
Amen. You are such a delight.
You can listen to The Animal That Changed Me anywhere you get your podcasts.
Okay, I have to tell you, it's The Animal That Changed You, but I didn't want to have to tell you.
Animal That Changed You!
Guys,
oh my God.
Sorry.
All this time.
No, it's okay. If you would have said my name was Catherine, I probably would have gone, yep, yes.
Oh my
yep.
gosh. I'm so sorry we said it wrong. God.
The Animal That Changed You.
Now I feel like it might make, maybe I should have called it The Animal That Changed Me. I think maybe you were right.
You make it about your guest. Where's
know.
The Animal That Changed You? Yeah. This is the show that you need to be listening to. If you find one called The Animal That Changed Me, report them to the Better Business Bureau.
Yeah, that is a mockbuster. You are listening to the Transmorphers of podcasts.
That's right. The Animal That Changed You is the one to listen to. Where else can people follow you, or should they follow you to keep up to date?
On Instagram, I'm The Animal That Changed You, and I write stuff about animals and not animals. And I'm cheering you guys on. They'll find me cheering you on as your friend and fan. That's where they'll find me.
Oh, you're wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This topic is closed, but there are many more topics to discuss. So please reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets, or
email us at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or go to our Facebook group. Let's celebrate all things Will Ferrell at facebook.com/groups/WeGotThisPodcast. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, who has his own fine podcast called A Bit of a Chat with Ken Plume. It's a catchy name. It's a catchy podcast. You can get it wherever you're listening to this. It's in the same place. Also, I want to thank researcher Kate McManus, graphic designer Uri Kilman, and QA engineer Jen Alba.
And thanks, of course, to our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song, respectively. And thanks to you, the people of the world. You know, we're in this glass house of emotion. And thank you for breaking us out of it every week when we get to do this show and talk with wonderful, wonderful people like Katya, who has come on and just made us smile with her Lastima. So thank you, thank you, thank you. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. And don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned, audience supported.